It was the dawning hours of 2012. For weeks I had been walking what Google Maps tells me was 1.5 miles every day to a gaming lounge because access to internet was scarce where I was living. I had been running through their meager library of games before I came to Fallout 3, but once I found it, I was there to stay. I fell in love with Fallout 3 and by extension the entire Fallout franchise. It was everything that I had loved about Oblivion, but in a dark, grim take on a post-apocalyptic setting. But a few weeks in, I decided to push the storyline forward, and it was over. 404 game not found. The storyline ended and there was no more world to explore. This sort of hit me out of left field because for the past few weeks I had been playing Oblivion with guns, but unlike Oblivion that let you keep playing and exploring when the main quest was completed, Fallout 3 permanently locked you out of your character. I wasn't necessarily angry, I was just more disappointed than anything. A few months later I moved and started trying to build a new life for myself and decided I would go ahead and buy Fallout 3. It was even cheap enough that the Game of the Year edition with all DLC was easily affordable to a rarely working temp, as long as you were willing to deal with all the games for Windows workaround BS. It was at this point when I first encountered the Broken Steel DLC, and was wholeheartedly thrilled to see that among other things, this DLC gave back the ability to keep exploring and playing the game after completing the main quest. That one little piece of Oblivion that I had been missing had been restored. But beyond that basic ability to keep exploring the side quests and investigating interesting places that should have just been a feature anyway, is Broken Steel really that great of a DLC? Does it really add content as its name suggests, or in true Bethesda fashion, does it just lock quality of life features behind a paywall? Well, that's what I hope to determine today. I will be evaluating Broken Steel from the perspective of storyline, explorable area, new object usefulness, and expansion to gameplay mechanics. Each of these categories will be ranked from 1 to 5, leaving a total possible Gray's Is It Good score of 20 points. If that sounds like fun to you, make sure you have your Metro Pass in hand and have paid your tithe to Confessor Cromwell, because I'm Gray, you're watching Great Gaming, and today I'm evaluating Broken Steel. Oh, and the storyline section is going to have mad spoilers for both the DLC and the main game. It's a 16-year-old game, your complaints are invalid. The story begins with another Fallout 3-esque jumble of semi-coherent conversation snippets out of context similar to the time jumps encountered during the Vault 101 prologue, which I actually like as a means of ensuring this DLC uses the same storytelling cues, and it makes it feel like a new chapter was added to the main questline, instead of just saying, here's some unrelated tacked-on busy work, give me money. Anyway, you wake up to find Elder Lion standing over you like a creep, and he fills you in. After what went down at Project Purity, you fell into a coma and have been lying in the Citadel for weeks now. Meanwhile, the Brotherhood of Steel has been mopping up the Enclave with the help of Liberty Prime, and there's much work to be done. The Brotherhood has cut a deal with Rivet City Security to protect shipments of the purified water coming out of Project Purity, while the Brotherhood coordinates distribution and protects the site. Meanwhile, the Brotherhood needs to keep the pressure on with the Enclave until they're gone or scattered to the wind. I love this interaction because Lion's demeanor and conversation both change depending on whether you were a coward who sent Sarah Lyons to activate the purifier or whether you were selfless and went in yourself. He doesn't blame you if Sarah dies, but he is distraught over the death of his daughter, and I found that pretty sad and all the more admirable that he's willing to continue to stick to his humanitarian ideals even after his daughter died upholding those ideals. After you've been adequately expositioned, you are free to leave the Citadel, and you can either go help stabilize the situation at Project Purity, or you can go kick some commie ass with Liberty Prime. As if this was even a choice. We head over to a tunnel on the edge of the map, which seems to be the preferred Fallout 3 manner of kicking off DLCs, and we get the skinny from the Paladin in charge of this assault. They're about to hit an Enclave stronghold, and you're really just there to mop up anyone who manages to make it past Liberty Prime. I have to say I never noticed it before, but this instant marks the exact moment of the decline of the East Coast Brotherhood of Steel. In this place, there's no talk of protecting innocents, only of destroying their adversaries. In Liberty Prime, they had discovered the means by which to project power that is beyond contestation, and they were using it with ruthless abandon. Paladins and knights strolled past piles of bodies strewn about the place as scribes busied themselves with the grisly task of stripping the power armor from corpses, wasting no time in their designs to outfit their own troops with the best technology available. I can't believe I had never noticed this the first time I played Broken Steel. Maybe it's just having the 2020 hindsight of having seen what happened in Fallout 4 and the Fallout TV series that let me see that they were already becoming becoming more brutal and unfeeling even before Fallout 3 was well and truly concluded, and that Owen Lyons really was all that was standing between them and becoming the very thing they were hoping to exterminate in their campaign against the Enclave. Or maybe I was just infatuated with the concept of the BOS as being the good guys. Regardless, this analysis of the disturbing turn in BOS behavior can wait, because death is a preferable alternative to communism, and it's time to kick the Enclave in the nards. Holy hell, this mission is glorious. It's the greatest thing ever. Liberty Prime is invincible and the wasteland will finally be free. Wait, what's he talking about? Orbital strike imminent? Liberty Prime? What did you mean by orbital strike imminent? Liberty Prime? Well, that was mildly devastating. The Enclave is gonna pay for this. Ad Victoriam! So we fight our way through this actually rather sprawling facility and learn that the Enclave has somehow discovered a pre-war orbital strike platform and are massing what's left of their forces at Adams Air Force Base. But before we can just go attack Adams, we are sent on a fetch quest. Okay, this is starting to sound suspiciously like Automatron from Fallout 4. You immediately know who the baddies are and where they're located, but some plot device requires side mission before you can go. Well, anywho, you have to go to Olney to locate a Tesla coil, and damn, I love the level design here. Gray? Okay, fine, I'll stay on topic, but I am going to bring this up again. You can count on it. The mission itself is pretty straightforward. Lots of death claws and other things that can kill you instantly if you're unwary, and of course you arrive to discover the Enclave has beaten you there. But thankfully you fight your way through and arrive at a surprisingly awesome for Fallout 3 lab and collect the Tesla coil. Fetch quest over. At least this one wasn't a freaking Radiant quest. Now on to the actual mission. So the path to Adams Air Force Base is blocked by rubble and debris and radiation, so our only chance of reaching it is a secret metro station used by the president to move around the capital, which is actually pretty cool. It takes an urban legend from our own world and sort of canonizes it. Anyway, we get there only to find the place is infested with sentry bots, which are already a ruin your day enemy, but also with feral ghoul reavers, which are horrifyingly OP bullet spongy nightmares added by this DLC. I'll have more to say on them in expansion to gameplay mechanics, but damn, I hate these things. After talking to a pre-war supercomputer that gained sentience on its own, we convince it to activate the train once we clear out all the reavers, and we ride it to Adams. Hot damn, it gets fun from here. So we luckily emerge from the metro station inside Adams AFB, and right next to the location of a Brotherhood care package containing a Tesla cannon constructed from the Tesla coil we procured earlier. And holy Adams irradiated airbase, this thing shreds through the otherwise heavily defended base like a taser through soggy toilet paper. Where the hell did I come up with that analogy? Sorry about that. Anyway, the base is loads of fun, and as we fight our way through, we start to encounter BOS assault teams taking advantage of the chaos that we're creating. We fight our way past a massive sand crawler. Oops, wrong channel. By the way, I have a sister channel where I discuss a wide variety of sci-fi related topics. You should check out Gray Galaxies when you're done here. Back to the topic at hand. You have to take a roundabout way to get on board this mobile command station, but once you get inside, it looks freaking amazing. This place screams high-tech pre-war, and I'm actually a bit bummed that this served as the basis for the Brotherhood's technology seen in Fallout 4, but the original just looked so much cooler. You fight your way to the top level, target the mobile command platform with their own weapon of mass destruction, and head outside to wait for your inevitable doom, only to get rescued by a BOS commandeered vertibird at the last instant. They take you to a safe distance, and you watch as the platform becomes a smoking pile of Pridwin parts. And that's it for the main story. Like I mentioned earlier, there are 3 other quests that were added related to Project Purity, which add quite a bit to the world building, like splinter groups beginning to form in the Children of Adam that take a more militant and extremist view, which sort of lays the groundwork for the Children of Adam that we see in Far Harbor. And that transition feels a lot less jarring than I think it would if we didn't have Broken Steel to bridge that gap between games. There's also interesting interactions with Rivet City Security, who are taking on a larger role within the Capital Wasteland, not just inside the confines of Rivet City, and you can kind of see an intriguing relationship start to form between them and the Brotherhood of Steel. This really makes me wonder about how the Brotherhood came to possess Rivet City's reactor for installation into the Pridwin. I had always kind of assumed that they took it, like Maxon's Brotherhood always does, but seeing the trade deals being worked out, the cooperation happening between Rivet City Security and the Brotherhood of Steel, it almost seems like Rivet City's security force might have actually been sort of annexed into the Brotherhood of Steel ranks, and Rivet City just became a BOS outpost. All of this is strictly conjecture, of course, but that's what I'm loving about this exploration of Broken Steel, viewing it in the context of serving as a prequel to Fallout 4. It opens up so many possibilities and makes the Brotherhood of Steel feel a lot more nuanced than I think I've really given them credit for in recent years. Arthur Maxson still sucks, but that's a topic for a different day. When it comes to ranking the storyline of Broken Steel, I'm going to give it 4 vertebrates out of 5. It's too short and sparsely spread throughout the missions to really consider it exceptional, and it takes a while for that detour to Ol Only to pay off, but it eventually does, and in a very big way. So yeah, 4 out of 5 seems pretty fair here. So explorable area is actually pretty damn great where it was added. The dungeon dives are a bit long for my liking without a breather, but seriously, these things are great. At one point you're trying to cut through an underground Deathclaw nest, all of the terror of fighting your way through Quarry Junction in Fallout New Vegas, but with the claustrophobia and restricted movement of a narrow cave. The presidential metro is, well, it's okay. It's made worse by the Reavers and Sentry bots, but the level design itself is good, and its cleaner, more preserved appearance is a nice change of pace from the usual crumbling state of the Capitol ruins. The Tesla lab is pretty okay. Honestly, I've never explored the whole thing before this playthrough because I'm a bit of a save scummer, but this time I failed the terminal that bypasses the intended route to the lab, and it was pretty generic, but it also felt right at home in Fallout 3. And the chamber itself was amazing, and I was actually impressed that Bethesda was able to accomplish these great effects in the short time between the release of Fallout 3 and Broken Steel being released. They really pushed the envelope for implementing environmentals, so you know what? Todd, for the first time on this channel, I'ma give you a kudos. Adams Air Force Base felt a little repetitive after a while, but it was also so cool to see the suburbs that exist on most military bases for officer housing, the statues and decorations that tend to adorn the administration buildings in these bases, the sharp transitions between what looks like industrial warehouses and practical purpose-built structures. I've visited my share of military bases, and though I've never visited Adams AFB, I have to say that they nailed the feeling of being on a US military installation. As far as explorable area, they didn't give us a whole new map like Point Lookout or the Pit, but damn if they didn't do their best to make every inch feel intriguing, well planned, and taking many of the resources that were already there and changing the ambience just enough that it doesn't feel like they were just copying and pasting elements that we had already encountered a dozen times over. The lack of new open world maps does lose it a point in the old scorebook, but I feel that 5 liberties minus a prime is fair in this case. You could argue for a 3 out of 5, but at a certain point you're just nitpicking or looking for something to gripe about for the sake of it. So I'm sticking to my score of 4 out of 5. So this DLC doesn't add a whole lot to the game in terms of new items. Most are just unique variants of existing weapons and armor, and I mean, they're usually really good, almost overpowered in most cases. The Hellfire armor and heavy incinerators added to Enclave troops makes them so much deadlier to deal with, but their durability is also pretty lame. I have to say 2 weapons from this DLC absolutely own, and that is the Precision Gatling Laser for dealing with those close-quarter shooting gallery areas where you don't want to get caught in your own weapon splash radius, and the Tesla Cannon where you can just go nuts at long range, absolutely wrecking enemies left and right. Lagbolt's glasses are a nice boost to sneak and lockpick without robbing you of the ability to wear a helmet, and there are a small number of alien blaster rounds and an alien blaster in the mobile command platform armory. So there are a few options for unique gameplay experiences. I don't know that I consider these must-haves, and the fact that you can only get these after the main story has concluded likely means by the time you get them, there isn't going to be much left that requires a handy weapon and a sturdy suit of power armor. So it's a bit too little, a lot too late. I'm going to give new object usefulness a 2 Tesla cannons out of 5, which is pretty harsh, but again, if you're trying to 100% the game before finishing, there's no real use case for these weapons and armor once the DLC concludes, but damn if they aren't glorious in the interim. So this is a very difficult thing to gauge. I really struggled with this category, simply because there really weren't any new mechanics added. Broken Steel didn't add a new crafting system or even just new components and recipes to what existed. No settlement building or a new player home that needs customized. It didn't add weather systems or environmental danger effects to the Capital Wasteland. It didn't create a more dynamic set of conversation outcomes. It really was just more of the same gameplay loop that we had already grown accustomed to throughout the entire main questline of Fallout 3. It did give us new classes of enemies, Feral Ghoul Reavers, Super Mutant Overlords, and Enclave Hellfire Troopers, and these things can be nightmares the first time you encounter them. But at the end of the day, these new enemy classes are just higher level, more bullet spongy, more damage dealy versions of enemies we had already had, and they were more of a frustration or hindrance to gameplay than anything else. A lot of players who had only ever played Game of the Year Edition probably weren't even aware that those enemy classes were added in this DLC. But it would be lazy or intentionally dense if I didn't acknowledge that Broken Steel gave us one thing, one hugely necessary thing for first-time players who don't know all the places you have to go before you've seen and done everything: the ability to finish the game and then keep exploring the Capital Wasteland. To allow players to reserve certain side quests for a sort of headcanon epilogue or to ignore them entirely cannot be understated, and in that respect I think it has the greatest effect on a base game's mechanics of any DLC I am aware of from any video game. This simple yet elegant addition to Fallout 3 could easily justify a 5 lions out of 5, but the simple fact that this was the only mainline Bethesda game to ever be locked out upon main quest completion in the first place could easily justify a laughable 1 Todd out of 5. So I think in lieu of more convincing information, I'm going to have to default to a middling 3 out of 5. So just in case you weren't keeping score at home, Broken Steel earns 4 points for storyline, another 4 points for explorable area, 2 for new object usefulness, and 3 for expansion to gameplay mechanics. 13 of 20 is actually decently respectable. In playing through this DLC in its entirety for this project, I gained a whole new respect for the non-narrative storytelling that Bethesda is capable of. The fact that they were already sowing the seeds for Fallout 4's Brotherhood before they had even started work on that game is so cool, and honestly, I hadn't played through this DLC in over a decade, since before the release of Fallout 4, so this was a great chance to view it with fresh eyes and a lot of new perspective that I had gained from everything I had experienced in the world of Fallout and our own since then. I love this DLC, and I am so excited to see what the other DLC can add to Fallout 3 as I hopefully move forward with this series. I'm a bit curious what you thought of my scores. Was I too generous? Too harsh? Do you think Broken Steel stacks up against the other DLC for Fallout 3, or was it more or less just a quality of life patch locked behind a paywall? Until next time, stay safe and remember, it's better to be dead than red.